The lobby of Crown Pine Suites smelled like lemon polish and quiet desperation. Under its marble floors and crystal chandeliers, a quiet army moved unseen, vacuuming, polishing, resetting the luxury after luxury had passed through. And among them, every night at 11 p.m. sharp, came Tasha Reed. At 32, Tasha had learned how to disappear into a room before most people knew she was there. Dressed in a pressed navy uniform, her natural curls tucked under a black cap, she clocked in with a nod to the security guard who never asked her name and picked up her cleaning cart from a hallway nobody noticed. That night, the conference wing had hosted a biotech summit, glass walls fogged by air conditioning, chairs in perfect rows, untouched hors d'oeuvres. Tasha came through after the guests had all scattered back to penthouses and Teslas. The room was silent, stale. Disposable name badges littered the floor. Champagne flutes sat sweating on glossy wood tables. She hummed quietly as she worked. Gospel, soft and half-remembered. A ritual she didn't explain to anyone. Then she saw it. Half buried under a plush velvet armchair, wedged between two cushions, was a teddy bear, worn, faded brown, one button eye missing. A soft pink ribbon drooped around its neck, half untied. But it was the stitched embroidery across its belly that made her pause. E.W. It wasn't a brand. It wasn't decoration. It was a name, a claim, somebody's whole world. She picked it up gently. The fur was matted and smelled faintly of lavender and something older, like a closet that hadn't been opened in years. "Hey, Reed," called one of the catering guys, already stacking chairs. "Trash goes out the side. Lost and found bins full again." She didn't answer, just looked down at the bear in her hands. "Probably some nanny's mess," another chuckled, "or a bored rich kid, ain't ours to fix." But Tasha didn't drop the bear. Instead, she wrapped it carefully in a soft linen from the cart and tucked it into the pocket of her tote bag. She didn't know why exactly, only that something told her this wasn't garbage. That night, after her shift, she took the long way home on the Route 12 bus. Dawn stretched pale pink fingers across the smoggy sky. She sat in the back corner, bare on her lap. There was a small tear behind one ear. She took out her travel sewing kit and stitched it shut with careful fingers, humming again. By the time she reached her apartment, a one-bedroom on the edge of Crenshaw she shared with her niece on weekends, the bear looked almost new. Almost. What she didn't know was that 23 floors above the hotel lobby, in the largest penthouse of Crown Pines, a 14-year-old girl named Emma Whitmore hadn't slept all night. Her father, Grant Whitmore, had canceled his board meeting with Johns Hopkins. Emails remained unopened. His phone kept buzzing with escalating messages, but he answered none, because Emma wasn't just crying, she was shaking. "Daddy," she kept whispering, voice hoarse. "I can't find him." They searched the suite, twice, the balcony, the dining room, the hallway. The driver was questioned. The luggage was checked. Teddy was gone. Grant stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out over Los Angeles, as if answers might float through the haze. His late wife, Emily, had given Emma that bear on her 5th birthday, just weeks before her first chemo. When the funeral happened, Teddy had sat in the pew beside Emma. When she'd refused to speak for almost a year, it was into Teddy's stitched ear she'd whispered her pain. To anyone else, it was just a raggedy toy. To Emma, It was the last piece of her mother. "Find it," Grant had growled to hotel security. "I don't care what it takes." The general manager panicked. The cleaning staff was called in, files pulled, names circled. Within hours, a middle-aged supervisor in a gray blazer stood in front of Tasha Reed in the service hallway of the third floor and asked the question with all the politeness of a threat. "Did you remove an item from the conference room, Ms. Reed?" Tasha blinked, hand still inside a bucket of Lysol wipes. "An item?" "A plush bear, left by the Whitmore family." Tasha paused, remembering the smell of lavender. "I didn't know it was theirs," she said calmly. "It looked left behind. I thought it was important to someone. I took it home to keep it safe." The supervisor sighed. "We're reviewing your record. This kind of assumption affects our image." "Our image?" she echoed. "You mean returning something with care?" "I mean boundaries, Ms. Reed. That's all." At that moment, a man walked by in a tailored black suit, built like security. His earpiece flickered. He paused, his sharp gaze sweeping over the scene, and lingered. 10 minutes later, Tasha was summoned to the penthouse. No explanation, no apology. She was led through gold-trimmed halls into a room that smelled of silence and heartbreak. And there, curled on the carpet near a marble fireplace, was a girl in pajamas, arms wrapped around the bear Tasha had carried on the bus. Tasha froze. The girl looked up. Her eyes were red. She was pale, fragile. "You really brought him back?" she whispered. Tasha nodded gently. "I didn't know he was yours. I just felt he mattered." Emma clutched Teddy tighter. "He smells like her." The room stilled. Grant Whitmore stood at the edge of the room, all posture and presence, and yet completely undone. He had the look of a man used to controlling millions, but powerless in the face of one small truth. "You found it?" he asked, voice rough. "I didn't find him," Tasha said. "He found me. I just listened." He stepped closer. "I owe you more than I can say." She shook her head. "I didn't do it for thanks or money." Emma was still holding the bear, but now she was reaching out with her free hand. Tasha hesitated, then knelt down and took the girl's hand. The embrace was quiet, warm, transformative. Grant watched as his daughter, who hadn't smiled in weeks, looked up at a stranger and smiled. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled too. Then, calmly, with the weight of a man used to delivering verdicts, he reached for his phone and called the hotel manager on speaker. "This is Grant Whitmore," he said. "You fired the wrong person." The line stuttered. "You punished someone for doing what none of you remembered how to do, act like a human being." He hung up without waiting for a reply. He turned to Tasha. "I'd like to offer you something else. Not a favor, a position." She blinked. "A position. I want you on our team as part of Emma's support circle. Travel, education, someone who sees her the way you did." Tasha glanced at the girl still clinging to her hand and nodded. Outside, the city buzzed as if nothing had happened. But in that penthouse, something had shifted. Something small, sacred, and utterly irreversible. And all because someone didn't throw away a bear. 3 days had passed since the bear was returned, but the world didn't feel the same for Tasha Reed. She was no longer clocking in through the service door of Crown Pines. Her old ID had been deactivated, but not from punishment. Not this time. Instead, she now entered through a private side entrance, escorted by Whitmore security, to a guest suite on the 12th floor the family kept for extended stays. Her uniform had changed, too. No more polyester navy. Now she wore soft cotton slacks, a cream cardigan, and a lanyard that read, Emma Whitmore, Educational Assistant. She still woke up at 5:45, still made her own coffee from the tin on the stove, still took the bus, even though a driver had been offered. Not yet, she'd said when Grant Whitmore gently insisted, let me stay grounded a while longer. The billionaire had only nodded, something thoughtful in his silence. Emma had insisted on waiting for her by the elevators every morning since. You know I'm not going anywhere, Tasha had teased on the second day. I know, Emma replied, clutching Teddy under one arm, but I still like knowing you're coming. There was a new brightness to the girl. Her steps were still quiet, her voice soft. But she laughed now. Real laughter, the kind that made heads turn in the penthouse. Tutors, assistants, and nutritionists looked up in surprise whenever it happened, as though joy were something unexpected in this house. But for Grant, it wasn't surprising. It was a relief. He started lingering longer in the mornings before leaving for meetings, watching them, his daughter, and the woman who had brought light back into his daughter's room. One morning, as Tasha was helping Emma with Spanish pronunciation cards over breakfast, he entered quietly. Ty half nodded. Emma was giggling over the word zanahoria when she noticed him. Carrot, she explained quickly, smiling. In case you were wondering. Grant smiled back. Noted. His eyes flicked to Tasha, and for a moment the tension of boardrooms and biotech trials faded into something gentler. You're good with her, he said. Tasha shrugged lightly. She makes it easy. No, she doesn't, he said. That's why it matters. She paused, not sure how to respond. Gratitude from billionaires often came with strings. But Grant wasn't dangling money or deals, just honesty. May I ask something? She said. Of course. Why didn't anyone else notice how much that bear meant to her? Grant's jaw flexed, and he looked away briefly before answering. Because I was too busy being a CEO. Too busy being the one who fixes big problems. Mergers, hospitals, innovation pipelines. But not the small things, not the ones that live in a child's arms. He sighed. Emma doesn't just miss her mother. She misses being seen. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing her. But you didn't. The silence that followed was heavy, but not bitter. I want to do something, he said finally, for her, because of this, because of you. You already have, Tasha replied. You gave her her smile back. Grant looked at his daughter, then at Tasha. I want to build something in Emily's name, and Emma's, a foundation, for kids like her, grieving, isolated, invisible, something real. Tasha's breath caught. You want me to be part of it? He didn't blink. I want you to co-design it, run it even if you're willing, not as charity, but as leadership. She shook her head slightly, disbelieving. I'm a cleaner from Crenshaw, not a nonprofit exec. You're someone who listened when no one else did, he said. That's all I need. She didn't answer immediately. The weight of opportunity is heavy when you've spent your life carrying everyone else's burdens. But somewhere deep inside, something cracked open, not with fear, but with possibility. Later that afternoon, Emma sat cross-legged on the living room rug, showing Tasha a tiny photo album she hadn't let anyone else see. "This is her," Emma said, pointing to a sun-drenched photo of a young woman holding her as a toddler. "She used to sing a song about bears and stars. I thought if I lost Teddy, I'd lose her too." Tasha touched the edge of the photo gently. "You didn't lose her," she whispered. "She's right here." Emma looked up, eyes glossy but steady. "Do you think she'd be proud of me?" "I know she would," Tasha said. "And of you, and of that bear who kept carrying her love." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Emma said softly, "Maybe we could help other kids who miss their moms, or their homes, or feel invisible." Tasha felt the corners of her heart tighten. "You already are." That night, Tasha sat in her apartment, sewing a tiny patch onto Teddy's back at Emma's request. A small embroidered star, just like the one in the song. Her hands moved carefully, slowly. Outside, the city buzzed. Sirens, radios, life as usual. But for one little girl and one woman who never stopped believing in small things, something had changed. They had become a story, and the world was beginning to listen. 3 months later, the world had changed. Not for everyone, not yet, but for a growing number of children across the country. Children with hollowed hearts and empty arms. Children grieving parents, homes, certainties. Something new had been born. The Emma's Bear Foundation. The launch took place at a modest outdoor garden just beyond the Whitmore Children's Research Center, a place that until recently had been strictly clinical. Now it was filled with color. Soft lighting, handcrafted teddy bears, donated by artisans across the country, blankets stitched with stars, and rows of folding chairs beneath blooming magnolia trees. Tasha Reed stood backstage, adjusting the headset given to her that morning. Her palms were sweaty. She'd never spoken to more than a break room at once. Now, an audience of 100 looked toward a small wooden podium. Media, donors, pediatricians, teachers, and families. But it wasn't her job to open the ceremony. That honor belonged to a 14-year-old girl with her curls pinned back, her shoes polished, and a patched teddy bear held firmly under one arm. Emma stepped onto the stage. Her father, standing just to the side, blinked against the light. Not because of the sun, but because of the girl who now moved with quiet conviction. Emma took a deep breath and looked out at the rows of faces, some smiling, some expectant, some already wiping tears. She began. "A few months ago, I lost something that mattered more than anything. Not because it was expensive, not because it was new, but because it was mine. It smelled like my mom. It remembered her voice. It reminded me that someone once loved me so much. She gave me a piece of herself to hold on to. When I thought I'd lost that, I stopped sleeping. I stopped smiling. I stopped hoping. Until someone nobody noticed, brought him back. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care what I could give her. She just cared. And now, I get to give that to someone else. Through this foundation, we'll send bears to kids who need something to hold on to when it feels like the world forgot them. Not just toys, symbols, that they're seen, that their grief matters, that their stories aren't invisible. My name is Emma Whitmore, and this is Teddy. And this started because someone didn't throw away what the world called trash. She saw a treasure. She saw me. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. Reporters wiped at their cheeks. The live stream hit over 100,000 viewers in its first hour. But backstage, where lights didn't reach, Tasha stood frozen, not from fear, but from something deeper. The moment she realized she was no longer the invisible one, she was part of something real, something that mattered. Grant appeared beside her quietly. She didn't want a speechwriter, he said with a small smile. She said she already had the words. She just needed the microphone. Tasha nodded. She's braver than I've ever been. No, he said. She learned that from you. Later that afternoon, as the sun began to dip below the hedges and the guests slowly trickled out, Emma found Tasha by the water fountain, sitting cross-legged on the grass. "Can I sit?" Emma asked. "You never need to ask," Tasha smiled. Emma sat, tucking her legs beneath her, Teddy balanced carefully on her lap. "Do you ever miss someone so much," Emma whispered, "that it feels like your ribs are too small for your heart?" Tasha nodded slowly. "All the time. My mother passed when I was your age. I still set an extra plate every Thanksgiving, just in case." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Do you think my mom knows what we're doing?" Tasha didn't hesitate. "I think she's the reason it's happening." Emma leaned against her shoulder, and they sat that way for a while. 2 generations of loss, holding something they built from it. From across the garden, Grant watched. He didn't interfere. He didn't offer applause or take the spotlight. He just stood there, letting the moment exist. A billionaire in a bespoke suit, a girl who'd lost her mother, a woman the world had dismissed, and somehow a bear had tied them all together. That night, footage of Emma's speech spread across social media like a spark through dry grass. It aired on morning news shows, replayed on parenting podcasts, featured in a special by Good Morning America titled "The Cleaner Who Saved a Child's Heart." Tasha's inbox overflowed. Invitations, thank you letters, job offers. But she stayed where she was, by Emma's side, helping the foundation grow, teaching her not just how to lead, but how to serve. Weeks later, a photo was taken that would hang in the foundation's entrance. A quiet Sunday in the park. Grant, sitting on the bench in jeans and sneakers. Emma beside him, holding Teddy in one hand. And Tasha, not behind them, not in uniform, but beside them, not an employee, family. And in Emma's other hand, Tasha's fingers, gently interlaced with her own. The caption beneath the framed photo would read, "Sometimes you lose something precious, only to find someone irreplaceable." And somewhere, in another city, another child would receive a soft bear in the mail with a handwritten card that read, "You are not forgotten. You are loved. Emma's Bear Foundation." And the story would begin again.